Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole. I'm so happy to be with you today, and boy, do I have a special treat. We've been talking about a lot of heavy stuff over the past few weeks because it has been important. But as you know, the reason for Dreamleapers is to help all of us access and activate our dreams. And so I bring people on to talk about how they've done that in their lives. And my guest today has done it again and again and again, always with a bright smile on her face, really blossoming her creativity in ways that we all get to enjoy. My guest today is Renee Elise Goldsberry, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before we bring her on. She has been in 5 Broadway productions, 5, you guys. The one that many, many, many of you know is Hamilton. Yes, the award-winning Hamilton, for which she won the prize Emmy Award. She played Angelica Schuyler, and I just got to watch it again on Disney Plus, so it's fresh in my mind. Really amazing. She started out in One Life to Live, that incredible what do we call it? Soap opera. And we're going to talk to her about how she kind of refined her chops on that show. She's currently in a production that is fun and funny. And I love the fact that she's doing a comedy in the midst of her career, Girls 5 Eva. And she was just on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. We're going to talk all about that. She's done a ton of things. She's in a series called Altered Carbon. She is voice in Fast and Furious Spy Racers and Center World. You might know her from The Good Wife. She was in that wonderful, touching film, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And I could go on and on and on, but instead, what I'm going to do is to invite Renee Elise Goldsberry to come and talk to us right now. Welcome, Renee.
Hello, Harriet. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for welcoming me so warmly.
Oh, it's wonderful to be with you too. So I have to start with this comedy because I don't think of you as a comedic actress, but then it's music, it's comedy, it's so much fun. Girls 5 Eva. Tell us about this show that you made in COVID. It's crazy.
Yeah, gosh, at the end of last summer, I got a call from my manager just telling me to read the script called Girls. It looked like it said Girls 5 Eva. I had no idea what that meant. And she said, it's a new comedy by Tina Fey and Meredith Scardino, and they want to know if you're interested in doing it. So I read the script and just started laughing hysterically. I feel like it made me laugh so hard, and it also hurt my feelings a little bit because I was at this moment where I really wanted to make an album. I wanted to. I wanted to try to take advantage of, a great summer with Hamilton coming out on Disney Plus, and do what I really love to do, which I haven't had a lot of time to do before, which was write a lot of music and make a kind of pop R&B album. And the premise of this show is how absolutely ridiculous it is for a woman over 40 to try to be in pop music. So I just thought this is hilarious, and how ironic that this is what they're asking me to do. You can't see me, but I'm surrounded by like recording equipment because that's what I was trying to do at the time. But it's a beautiful show that really celebrates women who have decided to reclaim the narrative of their lives, and try again. Take the audacity of asking for a second chance, at your dream. It's a beautiful concept. And because of the people that are writing it and the people that are starring in it, it's Paula Pell, who's a brilliant comedian and a brilliant writer, Busy Phillips and Sarah Bareilles, and a lot of other really, really funny people, including Tina Fey, who pops in at one time in a way that just steals the whole series. Because of all the brilliance of the people that are writing it, we had an amazing time shooting this through COVID, and it is so funny. I can't wait for you to see it.
And so for you, I saw the trailer, and I'm very excited about it. For you, we don't think of you as a comedic actor. We think of you and your voice and drama, right? As a singer and really a dramatic actor. Was it hard for you to slip into this role of comedic actor?
Well, I think I'm really funny. And my well, actually, my family and friends think I'm really funny. And so there was a huge kind of cry from like that team of people that was like, oh my gosh, people need to know that you're funny. What's hilarious is that people thinking you're funny does not at all translate into you actually being funny in a movie or a television show. But I have done a lot of comedy before. And I just feel like when you're working with people that are that smart, let me just tell you, Harriet, this is kind of one of the things that just rules my career. I try not to say no to myself. If somebody actually asks me to do something, even if it seems like a little questionable that they asked me, whether it's, be a rapper, in a corset,
right.
stage, or anything, play, you mentioned, Henrietta Lacks. I mean, you could talk yourself out of doing anything. So I choose not to. I just feel like if God gave me an opportunity, he's going to give me the tools to pull it off. And that's worked for me so far.
And this notion of working, performing in close quarters during COVID, we're at the point now where people are very slowly coming out because a lot of folks are getting vaccinations. But, one of the concerns, and actually there's the whole shutdown of Broadway, it's just reopening, and film and television mostly were closed. What did you have to go through internally about stepping back out and onto a performance stage in the midst of COVID?
Girl, I ran. That's so funny. I wasn't scared at all. The only thing I was scared of, honestly, was because we were pretty locked down here, and we'd been locked down for a really long time, and we live in a very litigious society. Like no one's gonna or take on something like this if they haven't put a lot of money into trying to do it safely. So my biggest concern was not bringing down the production by getting COVID somewhere else. Fortunately, they test, even still, I'm vaccinated, but like the vaccination the advantage of vaccination, and all of that hasn't yet infiltrated all of our COVID protocol professionally. So even if you're vaccinated, you have to test every single day. Someone has a stick in my nose. So we do a lot of testing. But fortunately, at the time people were shooting productions, you had to bubble, kind of like the NBA did. You had to leave your family and go live in, some, hotel room and not ever come out to shoot something. And as much as I want to do any show, I would never have done that. That would have been great a cost for me with my family. So because they were like, you can live at home and we will pick you up and drive you to Queens and give you a COVID test and make you wait in a room until we know for sure that you don't have it. And then we can shoot. And everyone wears masks and, face shields, except for the actors between action and cut. And we were so grateful to be able to create something again. We've all been creating, as you have been. Sure. No one stopped during COVID, but we haven't been able to do it together. It takes a lot of money to do it together. And a company was willing to put that money up. And so I was excited about it.
And how many episodes are there?
There are 8 episodes. It's a very, in the world we live in, that's a really light binge. It's sure. 8 half-hour episodes. So it's really a 4-hour sit down. Isn't that crazy? Like we're used to giving like weeks of our lives to a show. It's a strange world we live in. This is like a night. This is a night.
You're right, Renee, because I don't think I binge watched anything before COVID. It was just not a thing. I mean, I guess it was a thing for somebody,
but you had stuff to do.
and I sat and watched so many things with my daughter and my husband because, well, we can't go anywhere.
I know.
Some of my friends read a whole lot of books. I can't even lie and say I did that. I did read a whole lot of books, but it was mainly when I was interviewing people, but not just like for leisure.
Right.
But this binge watching craze is something. Okay, so before we leave this show, you as you said, you were thinking of making your own album, and now you're sort of making a parody of that. What's going to happen with your music? Are you still working?
God bless you for asking that. Remember when COVID started, it was super stressful. I mean, after we got over the stress of, are we going to have enough toilet paper? The next thing was,
I have so much now.
Oh my God. we got to stop hoarding around here. It's just not right or responsible. But the next thing we really went into was this kind of pressure to learn a language or start a podcast or, just something. You had to create something, a cooking show. Yeah. You had to have a cooking. Like I just was so stressed out because I was just trying to feed my family every day, right. And keep my kids from, this kind of fear of this kind of science fiction life we were living. That was really what I was doing. I was trying to, take a shower, every day because no one cared. Well, kind of, So I used to feel a tremendous amount of pressure about what I was and wasn't accomplishing and what I was going to get out of COVID with. And here we are, hopefully with some glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, even though no one is sure. And I actually do. I finished an album when I started recording it right before we started shooting Girls 5 Eva in October. We finished shooting Girls 5 Eva in February, and I just went full force ahead with finishing it. And right now, today I will get my final mixes, and I'll be able to approve them. Ooh. And I'm really excited about it. I would love to come back and after you hear it and let me know what you think.
Absolutely. Yeah, what type of music is it, Renee?
It is really a mixture of R&B and pop music. I just love that music, and I love all kinds of music, honestly and obviously.
Yes.
What I was really excited about was trying to imagine what the world would be like out of a pandemic. We keep talking about the roaring 20s, but most importantly, we've been talking about how we will be better and different when we're back together, how we will treat each other differently, how much more inclusive we're going to be, how much more responsible we're going to be and accountable we're going to be. We've been talking about that. And I just wanted to have some of those, I wanted to have a soundtrack to that.
We'll see. This is music that you wrote.
It's all music I wrote. Yeah.
And so do you work with a band? How do you put the music together?
Well, I do actually work with a band. I've been concerting since I left Hamilton. So that's something else. And the band is amazing. And we're actually about to start concerting again in about a week and a half, which is crazy. But for the music.
In
person. I'll be in Iowa in less than 10 days. I mean, it's outside at a beautiful park called Quad City. But yeah, and then I'm supposed to be in Detroit on June 27th singing with the Detroit Symphony, which is another thing. So people are, we're trying to come back. We need the symphonies, those concert halls. They need to play. So I'm doing that. But as for the music, I worked with a team, a really, really wonderful producer named Theron Feemster, and a really, really wonderful another songwriting partner, this wonderful man named Paul. We just worked collaboratively because they're both in Los Angeles. But collaboratively to dream and to pull this off, and I'm really proud of it.
And how long does it take these days once you have, you say you're going to get the music back, you're going to listen, back in, the day before technology became what it is now, it used to take a long time before an album could come out. But now we don't even physically have an album. Potentially, how soon could this music be available to us?
That's a really good question. What I'm told in the world that we live in now, because it's all digital, is that, dropping a whole album is not necessarily what people do anymore. It's like a single and then a single and then a single. And so I believe we'll probably do that. What's in front of me, and I'll admit, I haven't really ever done something that wasn't completely independent. So the idea that I'm working with, really amazingly talented people that have done this a million times is encouraging, and they're leading the way. But what I'm excited about is listening and figuring out, because, I think everything's good. I think everything's the first single. Having
other opinions.
Oh God, girl, it's so hard. I bet. Hard. People don't agree with me all the time. It's shocking.
Does it have a name yet?
It doesn't. It's so funny. One of the producers said to me one time, I got it. I got the name for your album. I was like, what is it? He goes, Never Too Late. I was like, I don't like it. But it's true. It is never too late, and it definitely will not be called that. But it will. But that is the theme for the stage in my life. That's the theme of the show Girls Five Eva, and it's definitely the theme of the idea of me being able to put an album out in a major way at this age. It is never too late to really, to really go for your childhood dreams. And I hope everybody, is inspired to do the same.
Wonderful. Hey guys, you're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. And we have the delight of talking to Renee Elise Goldsberry. You know her as Angelica Schuyler of Hamilton. Yes, Hamilton Broadway. Remember Broadway? And now she's starring in a really fun comedy called Girls Five Eva and we should say it's on the Peacock. Which how do people get Peacock in case they don't know?
Well, you know what my husband told me last night? It's free.
It is free. And it's online.
It's online. It's online, and it is it's the NBC Universal streaming platform. So all of the content of NBC Universal really comes through that. It's like, it's what Disney Plus is to the ABC platform. Peacock is to the NBC Universal platform, and it's just a really wonderful home for the show. And it's Peacock's doing amazingly well. Even when they told me that this show was going to go there, I didn't really know much about it, and now it's like, God, 33 million, subscribers. It's really blowing up, and our hope is that this show increases, just kind of the trajectory of how well they're doing.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about Broadway and Hamilton for a minute. I've been doing some work with the Broadway League, and there have been a couple of other organizations really trying, even before COVID, trying to bring more awareness to the Black community, bring more Black people on stage, behind the scenes, etc. The numbers are not very good in terms of how many Black folks are involved. You have been involved in Broadway for a long time. Can you talk about your experience of being an African-American woman on Broadway over the years, and have you seen, obviously we have a year of a pause, but have you seen more doors open for Black people of color, or what does it look like to you?
Well, what's been really interesting about this year is how artists have not only, done what we do really well, and that is, tell the truth about what everybody else is doing, needs to do better at. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's been real good about what y'all aren't doing right, and not necessarily reflective about, our own failures, how we're failing ourselves and therefore failing the world, because we are supposed to be the ones that tell the truth. So what's been really interesting is that we've all had to do a lot of what have been grounded, as we say, and we've had to do a lot of introspection. And so every industry, I hope, in what we call Black Lives Matter summer, as though it was only a summer, right, started to say, well, how am I complicit? What am I not doing well? And, there have always been, since, Shuffle Along and a lot of really wonderful shows, Broadway is, Black Broadway has come up and done something brilliant and saved the day. No one questions, the remarkable artistry of Black people and how profitable that is.
Sure.
But that's very much, when the curtain goes up and how delightful they are. And as irresponsibly as we've even handled that, what we have not ever really talked about is just inclusion, everywhere. And we've been talking about it since this summer. We've been talking about, you've been a part of that conversation, honestly, Harriet, before Black Lives Matter summer happened. They brought you in. I don't know, you could help me talk about this, just to tell me if you feel like you would have a better time, an easier time doing the work that you were enlisted to do now than you did then. I'm curious to know that. But as far as I'm concerned, we have been saying, we've been writing letters like, we see you Broadway,
Right.
We see you, Broadway, and you're just listing out a long list of the kinds of things that we need to do better when we get back, or it's not okay. And so do you feel, have you read those letters, and how do you feel?
So yes, I started a couple years ago with the Broadway League. We did some studies to see how people felt about the Black presence on Broadway, and then we started an initiative called Let's Do Broadway that brought together Black voices, but from on the stage and behind the scenes, to talk about it. And then we've created a few events where we're talking about it, trying to figure out what are the real issues, and then COVID happened. And I will say that as the Broadway League, which is the right, the association, right?
Association of producers, the people that make the big Broadway happen.
Exactly.
The big guns.
The big guns. But even before them doing it, there have been entities pushing hard to try to shine a light on this. Since COVID, there are several other organizations of Black people in Broadway that have formed and have created a big voice. And I think that's essentially what you're talking about. These letters that have been written, people standing up and speaking out. I would say it has been amplified.
Yeah.
The call to action has been amplified. There are more voices involved. And also, some of these big theater owners and producers are taking note in a way that I think they may not have been before. Mm-hmm. And a big part, honestly, Renee, I think that when Broadway comes back, which it's opening now in little bits, they're going to have to figure out so many things. Are people going to have the disposable income that they used to spend all that money to go to a production? Probably the pricing is going to have to be reevaluated. And when the pricing gets reevaluated, it also makes it more equitable for other people to come and maybe not have to stand on that line. Good that the tickets line exists, but I'm hoping that there is a movement toward equity because of this pause. And we're going to see. We'll see what happens. It's tough.
I'm hoping that there's a movement towards equity in terms of the people that are writing, and the people that get a seat at producing, and the people that are in the hair department and the makeup department, and the crew. Let's talk about those unions that have lived for a really long time, that just at their core have really wonderful families of people that have had those jobs for a long time. But some of the policies make it really hard to get in if you were not born into those families. So, I mean, we don't have. It'll be interesting. Let's say it like that.
It will be interesting. One of the things, and you've touched on it already, but I want to put a finer point on it. One of the things that I ask people all the time is, what did you do during COVID? And when we think about 9/11, for example, everybody who was alive remembers exactly where they were, what they were doing, what happened, how they felt about it. Because COVID is now over a year, there's a longer period of time. And I think, as you said, Renee, certainly you and I and plenty of other people didn't stop creating whatever it is that we felt passionate about doing. Some people did stop. This has been a mental health crisis for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
It's been really, really difficult, sometimes often financially, but also the isolation. Mm-hmm. What I'm pushing people toward is just, because we're still in it. Like, if you haven't done what your heart tells you to do it now. Mm-hmm. So I know one of the things that you've said is to make this album. I'm curious, particularly because you are a wife and a mother, what was it for you as family, as mother, that you felt was important to do during COVID, so that when you look back with your family, there'll be a positive impact?
We talk a lot about silver linings. That was a phrase, a hashtag that was really, I think, popular through COVID. And for me, one of them was just being home. I spent, my family was like kind of born right before Hamilton. So I was raising children while I was doing Hamilton. I'm actually, just as a side note, working on a documentary about being a mother and a wife, and give birth to that wonderful show. Not so much just about me, but just about all of the parents that do that Broadway / family thing, and the specific challenges involved in that. But yeah, I didn't leave town when I was doing Hamilton, which is great. But I feel like there was a part of me that was just not there, because it was such a huge undertaking to have that awesome experience. I just felt like there was a part of me that was always aware that I had a half-hour call every single day. And that was just a huge kind of Olympic torch that I felt that I was carrying, that when I left the show, I was just so excited to be really present, but it also meant that now I was free to travel for work. And I wanted to take advantage of that, that liftoff, that launch I got from Hamilton. So I was, you remember, I was shooting at show Altered Carbon in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I was back and forth. Like, I would shoot during the week and come home every single weekend. And I spent a couple years gone a lot. And I just, when COVID happened, was grateful about the fact that there was nowhere I could go. And I have so much support. Like, we all have so much support to be able to have a career and have a family. Yes. Even if you're not working outside of your home, you need so much support. Thank God it is not, looked down upon to enlist support, taking care of our family, the world that we live in. So I had my mother, I had the babysitter, I had so much help. And nobody could come here for me during COVID.
Right.
Let me not lie. I definitely tried. I literally remember calling our nanny. I tried to get my mom here. I was like, "You sure you don't want a place to just hang out? Anybody that can cook?" I was like, "Girl, you want to bring your family here?" During COVID, we'll help take care of you. I have a yard. I really tried, and fortunately, it was God said no. Nobody came, and the beauty of it was I had to do everything. I had to teach my kids. I had to clean my floors. I had to cook every single meal. My children would come for lunch talking about, can I have macaroni and cheese and chicken cordon bleu. I'd be like, no, peanut butter and jelly. I've been sending y'all to these schools, where they at lunchtime. No. So, I mean, this was the advantage of COVID for me, that I just got to spend every minute with my kids. I got to drive them crazy. I have always said that, you should take your mother for granted a little bit. Just a little bit, you should take your mother for granted in ways that my children haven't been able to take me for granted. Mm-hmm. They still ask me, will you be here when I get home from school? Who's putting me in bed? Who's dropping me off? They ask me that question. And so many kids don't ask their mom. They just assume.
Right.
And I love the fact that for that year, they just assumed I was going to be there, and they got to take me for granted. It was a gift.
How old were they?
Well, now my son turned 12 yesterday, May the 4th.
Birthday.
4th is with him, and my daughter is 8. So yeah, I had an 11-year-old COVID birthday party for my son, and my daughter turned 8 right before COVID. So yeah, we drove each other crazy, and
that's something. When you say that, when my daughter was 4. I was running Ebony magazine, and I was living in New York, and Ebony is in Chicago. I was on a plane. I was either in Chicago or LA producing shoots. Like every week I was going between New York, Chicago, and LA. And it was crazy. It was just absolutely crazy. And my daughter at 4, one trip I came home and she said, "Mommy, I want to talk to you." And she says, "I just don't think it's fair that Mrs. Rice," so Linda Johnson Rice, because she had met her, that Mrs. Rice makes you come to Chicago all the time. I think you have to tell Mrs. Rice that you are going to hurry up and finish your work, and you have to come home.
Did you cry?
Oh, I'm crying now.
I know, girl.
It was heartbreaking. And, my husband and I decided we were not going to move to Chicago. They really wanted me to move to Chicago. And so I left.
Yeah.
There came a time we just agreed this,
Yeah.
But it was so difficult. So there was no COVID
Yeah.
to make it shut down. We just had to shut down.
Yeah.
Of course, we're so fortunate to have careers and have our families, and yet sometimes those tough decisions
Ugh.
come in all different kinds of ways. And that was a tough one for me. And she remembers, even though she was young, it was such a pivotal moment. Now she's 17. But
Wow.
I know. So for her,
The beauty is that, I believe when I talk to, I love having friends like you whose children are older,
mhm,
because it's the source of so much information, useful information.
absolutely.
And
They survive. They survive. But also, Renee, they have wisdom. And this is the thing that we have to understand. Even when they are little, they have wisdom beyond whatever we have infused in them. They just have it. Let me remind folks, we are talking to Renee Elise Goldsberry. You know her from Hamilton, and now she has a new show, Girls Five Ever. You're listening to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. That's 99.5 FM and everywhere online at WBAI.org. And I love that we're online because technology makes it so that we can be connected in every possible way. I want to share with you, as those of you who listen regularly know, we are listener sponsored radio. There are no commercials, only hosts like me asking you as part of this family covenant, the listener family covenant, to support us because there are no commercials. That means nobody is like pouring dollars into the radio station. It is literally just us doing it. And so we ask you to make a donation of whatever amount is comfortable for you. You can become what is known as a BAI buddy, which is making a monthly contribution, like helping to keep the lights on and the telephone, that kind of contributor, or you can make a one-time donation. If you would like to be part of the Dreamleapers family, you can say that when you call and make your donation. Our number, and it's a new number, is 212-209-2950. You can call and make a contribution. Also, there are all kinds of gifts that people have given. So if you want to get something for a particular donation amount, you can do that. Again, the number is 212-209-2950. You can also go online, give to the numeral 2, WBAI.org, and make your donation that way. I had been saying that WBAI is 60 years old. It's actually 61 years old. Think of it. Listener sponsored radio, completely listener sponsored, lived through COVID with
right on.
with only listener sponsoring. So many people lost their jobs, and there's so many challenges that we experienced over this past year. And I really do think that the reason that people continue to contribute, Renee, is because we tell the truth. You talked about the truth earlier.
Yeah.
We know, my background is editorial.
Right.
There was so much of a lack of truth over the past few years.
Crazy.
And WBAI has always told the truth. It's a progressive radio station, 24/7. So I'll just remind you guys of the number one more time. It's 212-209-2950. So Renee, one of the things that I know about you is that you are a woman of faith. And you spoke about it a little bit here, but I want you to talk a little bit more about how faith supports you, guides you, and helps you do your work.
Well, I believe that it's more than a support. It really is the reason. It's how we got here, and it's why we're here, and everything else is just kind of carrots to keep to really have us do what we're here to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I believe if I get to be in Hamilton, or if I get to be in Girls Five Ever, or anything, if I get to sit here and talk with you today, it's not about the end result. It's not so that I win a Tony, or so that, Peacock becomes some huge network and I make this money to buy it, my kids, some, whatever. It really is the opportunity to just kind of share light, right, in the world. I really believe that's what we're here to do, and everything else is just a ticket to dance, a ticket to ride. And I'm grateful for my faith, specifically in an industry where it feels, and even not even just an industry, in a world where we feel so powerless. It's really it's the truth. And that is the power of knowing that we are always on some level powerless, but all powerful, because it's not up to us, you know? So I feel like you can dream, you know, to use, you know, the whole, you know, theme of your show, you can dream really, really big when you know that it's not about you and you're not the one that has to pull off, you know, the whatever the task is. And you also know that the reason I want this great thing to happen is because I'm going to have an opportunity to be a light in a room to a bunch of other people that are going to do even bigger things after me. I mean, it's a lot to answer, because how do you, you know, put God into words or a couple of words?
Right.
I guess probably the most, you know, all encompassing and simple answer is to say, I know how I got here. I know how I'm still here. And I know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, sometimes the specifics and the subtleties are confusing, but what's very, very, very clear is that every day needs to start with a check-in to the source, and every problem needs to, you know, is solvable with the connection to the source. Every question is answered from the source, and every gift, most importantly, every gift, for every gift, I know who to thank.
You've talked about how every performance of Hamilton, before the production would begin, Lin-Manuel Miranda would have a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And is that common, that there's a prayer with the whole cast and crew right before a performance?
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard this said by, you know, white friends in the theater, that only Black shows do a prayer before the show. I don't know if it's true. Every show I've been in, we was praying before the show. But what I hear is that, like, if you're in a white show, you know, you might be praying in your dressing room before you start the show. In a Black show, we all huddle up together, you know, off stage, like, Lord, help us get through another one today. I mean, that's what we do. We definitely did that in Hamilton. I missed some of them because you got to be there early. You got to be ready early enough to get there. But yeah, Chris Jackson would often kind of lead that off. And one thing that Lynn would say that was really, really beautiful, and I think uniquely special about Hamilton, you know, especially when somebody was going on that had never been on before, you guys, you know, those people out there, it doesn't matter what they're saying in the press, you know, it's like we're working, it's like we're chefs. Like if the meal ain't good tonight, it ain't good, you know? Mm-hmm. Those people out there have never seen it. And he would also say to anybody new that hadn't been on, no, we're already proud of you. No matter what you do, we're already proud of you. I mean, that I think is unique to kind of the spirit of Hamilton, because sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves as artists, and then we tend to be really critical and judgmental of other artists. And in this case, I felt that Hamilton was a judge-free zone, and it left a lot of room to, I think, risk greatly and do really big, wonderful things, because there was so much love there.
And you became an amazing Tony Award winner as a result, even though you just said, you know, you obviously don't do the work for that. What did it feel like to stand on that stage and accept that award?
It's crazy. It's so crazy. I still can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Why did that happen to me? You know, definitely not more worthy than not only the other actresses that were up for the award that year, but all my super talented friends in the world. I think, you know, I wonder if it happened so that I had the opportunity to give the speech that I gave. Mm-hmm. The speech I gave was really just about acknowledging how hard it is to try to have a family. We were talking about like managing a family, but my struggle started with trying to have a family and make a career happen. And so many times it feels like for women, like you have to choose between the two. And there was so, like, you were made that really hard decision about, you know, what you were going to do with your job. I mean, that's when you had a beautiful child asking you. There were so many decisions without any children I had to make up, because I thought, you know, if I do this, I can't try to have children. So there was a lot of no, I can't do this job because I'm trying to get pregnant in my career. And there was babies that were lost. I had some miscarriages that were pretty public before, before I had children. And so I had an opportunity to stand on the stage, you know, as a mother of two beautiful children and hold a Tony in my hand. I just wanted to encourage people to not think they have to choose between those two things, to really have the audacity to say, I want to have a family and I want to have a career. I know it's crazy. I know it's going to be hard, but I want this. Lord, can I do it? And try. And it worked out for me so far. And I want everybody to, I want everybody in this struggle with me that wants to be here.
That's beautiful. Now, you've performed in many projects over the years. I want to bring up one where you perform with someone who people just love to look at and love, Sterling K. Brown.
I didn't know you were going to say his name.
I couldn't leave without saying his name. Come on. So you performed in this really moving family story called Waves. Can you talk about, just let folks know what Waves is about for context, and then what was it like working with him? We all want to know. We want to be that fly on the wall.
Girl, I took the job so I could answer that question.
He says he was rooting for you to be that is amazing.
I believe him. I can't believe that. I believe him, and I can't. That makes me like want to pinch myself. Yeah, he's just beautiful. I mean, you know, what I find about most of the really talented people I've kind of admired, you know, on the screen or listening to their music. When you meet them, they're even more amazing than their art is. You know, I guess it's coming through someone amazing, and that's why it's so beautiful. And he's definitely a shining example of that. He's just such a beautiful light on screen, and even when he just talks, if he's not saying other people's lines, it's even better, you know? And so, yeah, when they asked me, there's this young man, white man named Trey Edward Schultz, who is just a phenom, wonderful filmmaker. He had done a couple films before just with his iPhone that like just took the world on fire. And so he had written the script called Waves, and it was about a family, not a Black family. It was just about a family. And with a son who has some issues, just trying to battle being a teenager and all the pressure of it, and the pressure of a really kind of domineering father. And he ends up doing something really stupid, hurting somebody, and really, really bad. I'm trying not to spoil it, even though you should see it because it's been out for a long time. And it's a tragic cautionary family tale. And Trey cast a Black family because the actor that he wanted to cast, that, you know, wanted the best actor to do it, was a young Black man named Kelvin Harrison Jr. And so now it's a story about a Black man doing something terrible. And it was actually quite questionable whether it was a good idea to have another image of a beautiful young Black man creating, you know, doing a violent act. And so when I read the script, I was actually really worried about being a part of the show. I took it anyway because Sterling K. Brown was in it and I was going to get to play it twice. And I'm so glad I did, because we needed to have, I think we've moved beyond telling stories about Black people that are just, you know, them being good and being responsible and being victims. I think it's important now that we're telling stories that we can go into shades of gray and talk about Black people that actually make mistakes, and not just Black people that are like victims of society. Like these Black people are, you know, very, very, you know, they're upper middle class people. There is not any, you know, obvious victimization of these people. The mistakes they make are their own in this particular story. And it's really beautiful to see a family, an American family, a family in any way, make some terrible mistakes that seem unsurvivable, and keep living and keep moving. It's about resilience. It's beautiful.
And I believe that it's available on Hulu now. So folks, you can find it. It's called Waves. Definitely worth watching. I'm going to remind folks one more time that you are listening to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI in New York City. You can find us on the web at WBAI.org. We need you, just like we need Renee and all the wonderful guests that I bring on to fill our spirits. I hope you're feeling full. I am. And, you know, I search for people to bring to you so that when you leave this hour, you're not just going, oh, that was nice. My intention is for you to go, okay, now I have to go do my dream. I want you to listen to my guests so that it will ignite the fire inside of you. Because I absolutely believe that if we bring our light and our goodness to the world and we cultivate it and offer it in the best ways, we make our world better. I believe it. I'm not just saying it. That's why Dreamleapers exists. I believe it from a cellular level. And so, this is 3 years I've been doing this show here.
Yay!
And yeah, it's really amazing. And I'm asking you to support our show. You can call us at 212-209-2950. Make a financial contribution of any size. Every dollar counts. You know that because you know it for your own life. And so this is part of our life, this show. And you can also write to give to the numeral 2, WBAI.org. And whatever donation feels right, your heart is telling you to give, we would appreciate whatever that might be. In the few minutes that we have left, Renee, I want to ask you, we're going to go back to what we call now the origin story. Renee Elise Goldsberry, as a little girl, what were you dreaming that you would be? And is it reflected at all in what you're doing now?
I wanted to be, it's like Chris Rock says, what do women want? Everything. I wanted to do all of it. I wanted to be Sarah Vaughan. I wanted to be Cicely Tyson. I wanted to be Diana Ross. I wanted to be, gosh, I mean, I don't know that I dreamt big enough to want to be Michelle Obama or even Oprah Winfrey, but I definitely wanted to, was looking at, women that were just so powerful in their gift and really understood the value of using a blessing to be a blessing. Like I just wanted to do this even as a little girl. And I really did feel very young that I was destined to be famous because that my people in my family told me that I could sing.
And you can.
Well, what's interesting is that, it wasn't too long before I started to realize, or at least question them, because I started realizing, wait a minute, I don't sing better than a lot of people out here, and maybe not well enough to do these things that I just assumed were going to happen. It didn't take too long for me to be disillusioned. I mean, definitely by the time I was applying for college, I went to some auditions for the different schools I applied to and saw people that were working way harder than me, were way more talented and deserving than me. And that was a wake-up call. And I spent most of my 20s just asking God, if this isn't what you have for me to do, please let me know, because I think these skills are pretty transferable. I could do something great. If it's not going to be this, don't let me waste my life with this. And I just kept asking that question through my 20s, and it got to be a much more serious question because, I was 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Now I look back at that age now and I realize how young it is. But at the time, all those people, Mariah Carey, Whitney, they were all way more famous before they, Alicia Keys was out. She was like 10 years, 20, how many years younger than me is Alicia Keys? So I started to be like, wait a minute, this is not the plan I thought was going to happen. I thought I was going to get real famous, Harriet. And then, in my 20s, and then in my 30s, I'd have some kids, and then they would, and I'd be so famous that I could live on a farm somewhere and they would fly me in for my roles.
I love this vision.
Oh God. And there I was at 30, whatever. And, I hadn't done it. And it was time to start having some kids.
Did it feel like a crisis inside that it hadn't happened yet?
I just didn't want to waste. I knew, regardless of what happened, I knew that at some point I started realizing, even about my children, I realized what's not promised is what I think is going to happen. God is not, he's not trying to do what I said. Thank God. I don't believe. Right. I don't personally believe, some people I went through that phase of like, name it, claim it. I'm not a name it, claim it person. I'm a show up. You show up and you make an idea and you try to pull it off, and then you listen really carefully and follow where you're led. That's pretty much what I believe. And that's worked for me. I show up anywhere. If I can pull it off, I show up, and I wait to see what's going to happen. I work really, really hard, as hard as I can to try to, to kind of bridge whatever learning curve gap I have to bridge. And I wait to see what's going to happen. And that's worked for me so far. And, I think now I can say that God has a sense of humor, because some of those things I thought were going to happen at 20, some of those opportunities actually seem available to me now that I just turned 50, which is crazy. I have how long anyone is going to care what I think. it might be another 5 minutes. It might already be over and you didn't tell me. But until that day comes, I'm just going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep trying to be a light in the world. And most importantly, I'm going to try to suck up all the light you have and see what happens.
That's so great. So, one of the things for those of you who are listening that Renee and I share is membership in a wonderful organization, Jack and Jill of America. I grew up in Jack and Jill in Baltimore, and just, the camaraderie among the mothers is so wonderful, and we get to support our children together. But this is a funny story, Renee. So prior to your joining our chapter, which is a big group of women,
fabulous group of women,
big fabulous group of dynamic, amazing Black women,
Black mamas.
Black mamas, that's right, Black mamas, because that's important. It's mothers. This is what this is. But prior to your joining, whenever we would sing the Jack and Jill song, OMG. So seriously, you guys, you if you could see us, it's such a dynamic group of Black mamas. And then we start singing and we sounded like holy hell. Nobody could keep a tune. Nobody knows the tune. And then Renee came, and so we knew who Renee was from, her amazing work on stage and film and TV. And we knew she could sing, but then you sang and we were like, thank God.
That's so funny. You know what? We have a Jack and Jill hymn that they asked me to sing every year. Thank God. And this time so it's the third year I've done it now, but this time we just did it on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I literally I was like, I thought to myself, you know what? Some mom is going to come up in here that sings way better than me one day and be like, you know what? I got it, Renee. I literally thought it's literally just a matter of time before somebody takes this from me and just blows me out of the water.
Well, then it's a duet.
Oh, that was a great idea.
Then it's a duet. Just like so I serve as the chaplain, and then Allison serves also as a chaplain. So we kind of have our duet role with what we have had anyway. But it's so we have like 2 minutes left. I want you to talk about the dreams you have for your children and for all of our children.
Oh, thank you for asking me that. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like we owe them a great debt after the year they've had. And when I get really emotional when I think about the toll that they've had to take for our bungling of COVID. And my hope for them is that, I don't know that we can calculate the cost to them. It makes me so emotional of what they haven't been able to do. I want our behavior to be dictated by what they need. You know what I mean? That's my biggest thing. What do we've been very fearful. We've had to teach them some lessons that were the opposite of what we were taught, right? Definitely we were taught to be cautious of strangers, but we were trying to teach our children to love other people and to be bold in certain ways that we've had to teach them fear. Literally when I come in the door in my house, my daughter greets me with a temperature thermometer gun.
Oh my gosh.
I dream for him. I'm not kidding. It's a beautiful little girl. I love you, mommy. And she won't get close to me until my temperature, I don't turn off on the temperature alarm. I dream for them simple things now. I just want them to not be afraid, right, of each other. I want them to be able to continue to grow and develop in ways that they've been stunted. I want them to dream really, 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 really big, and I want them to be supported in it. And I want them to be in a country where all of this racism and hatred and division is in the rear view mirror, like I thought it was when I was a kid, and not in front of them. I want us to have better behavior so that we are a better example for them. And if we can't pull it off, because it's real questionable, I'm praying to God that they can do it and we can learn from them.
That's beautiful. And Renee, I told you my daughter's 17. This is her junior year in high school. This was her year for full independence. My husband and I already allowed her so much independence because she's a responsible child, and it all came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And she says we're stricter than most, but thank God no one in our household has gotten COVID. Just the freedom to be herself.
Yeah.
That's what I want for her and for everyone. And also the belief that there's safety around that. I could not agree with you more. I want to thank you, my dear. Thank you for making the time to be with me. I know you have
Thank you
been
for asking me.
everywhere.
Oh, thank you for asking.
You've been everywhere. We're so proud watching you just, in your fullness with your full spirit and joy that is infectious in the best possible way. So we are going to watch Girls Five Ever on
Peacock.
Peacock. It's available now. Look it up, you guys. Thank you. We can't wait to hear the music.
Thank
We want all of the gifts that you have to offer, and we are just so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for this forum to share. God bless you.
God bless you too. Hey guys, you've been listening to Dreamleapers with Harriet Cole here on WBAI. Thank you for spending this hour with me and with Renee Elise Goldsberry. Wasn't it wonderful? My heart is full. I hope yours is too. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.